Can you hear the chair creaking? It's really creaky. So welcome everybody to our Sunday morning sitting group. My name is Trudy and I am the founding teacher at Insight LA. Right now speaking to you from the Guanacaste province of Costa Rica near Nosara in the dry forest area of Costa Rica. And we'll just wait a few minutes for other people to arrive. And then we'll begin. Can you all see me and hear me clearly? Because yeah, thank you. My screen looks kind of fuzzy on this end. Um, okay, good. Okay, we'll start in a second. I just want to get my phone because Melissa, who taught last week, sent me a quote from her teaching last week. Okay, so once again, welcome to our Sunday sitting group at Insight LA. My name is Trudy and I'm the founding teacher at Insight LA, and welcome you all. If you are new to this group, we divide it approximately into thirds where we meditate more or less a half hour, same with the teachings, and then we have the same amount for some conversation and dialogue with each other. And usually I talk about being on the unceded ancestral lands of someplace in the US. Usually it's either, up north or in LA, but I am in Costa Rica today in the Guanacaste province near Nosara, and it's the area of Costa Rica where there's a dry forest. It's very, very dry during, I don't know, about half the year, and then it just rains. And then in September and October, it rains constantly. One of the people who lives here told me that she went away once for 2 weeks during the rainy season. And when she came back, the walls of her apartment were green with mold. And the inside of her car was also green with mold. It's not my favorite climate, hot and muggy here, but it's so beautiful. And I don't have to talk about this being, unceded ancestral lands of anybody, because Costa Rica, in some way, it made it a poorer country, but it was such a blessing that it didn't have gold or oil, the resources that would cause the, rapacious others to come and colonize and extract those resources for other countries. So Costa Rica, uh, and it also didn't annihilate its indigenous population. So, and also another thing about this country that you probably know, it has no army. So they get to spend their money foolishly on healthcare and education for people, and things that really are to take care of the population here. Yet it's still a third world country. When I've only left the retreat center where I am uh, once, but there's paved road and unpaved road, and they kind of alternate, and it takes a long time to get places for that reason. And Jack and I were teaching here last week, which is why Melissa came to teach, which is always, I think, a blessing for you that Melissa comes. And well, all the teachers who come are good, or they wouldn't. I wouldn't trust you with them, or trust them to be with you, or however that works. But this week I am here, but not having to teach. And I'm actually going to be here for a while. Jack is going home tomorrow, but I'm going to do a writing retreat. So I'll be able to be with you the next few weeks, I'm glad to say. So today, I'm going to do a partly guided, I always do a partly guided meditation, but today the focus will be on generating some mudita, some sympathetic joy. And the reason I want to do this today is that I'd like to talk to you about envy and jealousy and the shame that is associated with having those kinds of feelings. Now, traditionally, mudita is the antidote to experiencing, to being caught in states of the suffering of jealousy or envy. And so ideally we would do it more at the end of the talk, but this is our meditation. And so we're going to do it now. And I really feel passionate about talking about not just the antidote and the joy, which is what we Dharma teachers usually do, but also to focus more on the suffering of those states. That it's easy to jump to the antidote, but in order to, it can be a long walk from being caught in a state of jealousy to being able to practice mudita. So we're going to talk about that today. So for now, let's meditate. Put your body in whatever frame will help you be quiet in your body for this time, just because it does help the mind calm down when our bodies are still. So let's begin by taking a deep breath in and releasing. And once again, breathing in and gently releasing any tension in the mind with the out breath, relaxing. And then once again, breathing in the energy, the aliveness of this moment, and breathing out any physical tension there may be. You might want to do a neck roll or just bring your shoulders up to your ears and drop them. Just letting go of any physical tension that you can. And then just breathing normally. Keeping the breath company with your attention. Aware of the sounds of life around you. The sensations in the body that may be happening. Now, this practice of mudita, usually translated as sympathetic joy, joy in the happiness of others, is not a mindfulness practice. It's more of a concentration practice where you focus on certain phrases and just let yourself receive the meaning of them fully. This practice is usually done for other people, but today we will also include ourselves. I am going to offer just a couple, maybe 2 or 3 simple phrases. And the practice is for you to just silently repeat those phrases, not over and over again like a mantra, but just to drop them in to your meditation and see what happens. So, to begin with, choose a friend, someone you like, toward whom your affection flows naturally. And whoever comes to mind, just picture that person with your imagination. You can visualize them or you can sense them near you. And then notice something fortunate about them. It doesn't have to be some huge success or accomplishment, but just something that is good in their life, something that for which they might feel grateful or have some joy. It could be a pet they have or having a meal they enjoy. It can be a simple thing. And thus gently offer this phrase silently May your happiness continue. May your good fortune grow and grow. May your joy and gratitude never leave you. And as you say the phrases, let yourself feel some pleasure or some delight, some appreciation for whatever bit of joy or good fortune they have. It's kind of like sending them friendly wishes or loving kindness. But here you're focusing on some specific bit of good luck or pleasure that they enjoy and just appreciating that. And when you notice the mind has wandered away, just gently repeating the phrase and holding them in your heart. And then when you're ready, call to mind somebody who has been in some way a benefactor in your life. Could be a mentor, could be somebody who just supports you when you turn to them. But somebody towards whom you feel some measure of gratitude. either picturing them in your mind's eye or sensing them near you. And then once again, focus on some goodness, some good fortune in this person's life. Again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just something you notice about them, their generosity, or whatever it might be. And then offering this phrase, may your happiness and good fortune continue. May your good fortune grow and grow. May, may you enjoy your success and good qualities. May your goodness never leave you, or your generosity, whatever is right for this being. And now, when you're ready, choose somebody that you really don't know, but you see them in passing, perhaps, sometimes called the neutral person. Somebody at the store, or the post office. And you can use your own phrases, or you can just silently wish, may your happiness and good fortune continue. You can't focus on a particular quality because you don't know their life, but you can just wish, may whatever good fortune you have grow and grow. And just seeing what it's like to feel this appreciative gladness for someone you don't really know. And you may notice that the mind wanders much more when you're not offering mudita to somebody you already like or even love. And just gently begin again. May your happiness and good fortune grow and grow. And then when you're ready, and this one, it gets really interesting, call to mind somebody you don't particularly like or somebody with whom you've had some difficulty. And please do not choose the person who's, caused you the most trouble in this lifetime. Just somebody where, yeah, you aren't really that sad if something not so great happens to them. Again, visualizing them if that comes easily to you, or just sensing them in your area. It doesn't have to be close to you, but somewhere near you. And just notice what it's like. It doesn't have to work. You don't have to really feel it, but noticing what it's like to offer some appreciative gladness for this person. May your happiness and good fortune continue. May your happiness grow and grow. May your happiness never leave you. Or whatever you can offer. May you have some happiness. May there be some good fortune in your life. And now just inviting all beings everywhere without exception. May all beings find some happiness in their life. May all beings enjoy some good fortune. May all beings be blessed with some success. Pervading in all directions the sympathetic gladness, the willingness to enjoy and appreciate the happiness and good fortune of others. Just radiating that from your heart in all directions. And here's where you include yourself. May I too enjoy happiness and good fortune. May my happiness and good fortune grow and grow. And even if there's nothing to rejoice about right now, you can offer the wish. May I enjoy happiness and good fortune. Ding. So thank you, everybody. If you feel drawn to do this practice, if it was super hard for you to do and you feel like, hey, I could actually work on that, there's lots of wonderful guided meditations online to strengthen this quality in your heart. I love the practice of mudita, of appreciative joy, because I think it just cuts through the whole sense of, if you have some happiness and I don't, I feel impoverished. And again, I may feel envious or jealous, which I'm going to talk about, but it just cuts through that whole sense of separation. Like, if you have happiness, there's more happiness in the world. And ultimately, that can make me happy too. In traditional Buddhist teachings, you may be familiar with the concept of klesha, or afflictive emotions, emotions that are considered obstacles, really the emotions that make us suffer. And in the Buddhist teachings, these strong emotions like anger or hatred or well, to list them all, the one we're going to work on today is jealousy, uh, or envy. They're called poisons. The classical three poisons are greed, hatred, and ignorance. Ignorance, not in the sense of not knowing stuff, but ignorance in the sense of being deluded about the nature of reality and who we really are, or just getting all confused. They're called the three poisons. Why? Because they poison our experience of life and they make us unhappy. And um, and they are considered obstacles to practice, but they can be a wake-up call. They can be a signal to become mindful. And that's how we're going to approach it today. They're a signal to actually explore the state and to explore what may be going on for you. And they're also a chance to reframe um, these ideas of afflictions and obstacles and poisons, and just see, okay, the teachings of emptiness, the teachings of meditation can really help to um, transform these states, to make them happen, to make them carry less pain, and they can, and we can work with them in our practice. So I've noticed that most of my Dharma teacher colleagues don't talk about jealousy and envy very much when they teach mudita or appreciative joy. They really talk more about the joy part, or how do you practice this? And and I think that, you know, I did a search on the Lion's Roar wonderful resource website and on Tricycle, and I came up with just a few things. Whereas if you search for joy or mudita, you just get tons and tons of results. And I think the reason for this kind of relative silence, is not a total silence, of course, but I think the reason is that, you know, jealousy is called the green monster, right? These are feelings that we feel ashamed of. Um, Nobody feels proud of being, you know, completely caught in envy. And um, and it's a big leap. Like I said before, it's a long walk from being snagged by being super jealous of somebody or envious to being able to practice appreciative gladness for them. Um, so usually we just heap shame on ourselves for feelings like, you know, I hate her, I'm so jealous or envious of this or that or him. And how could I think this? I'm so petty. And when we catch ourselves having these, or sometimes we can catch ourselves being mean or undermining towards somebody, or just a little aggressive, because we have these feelings and they're not completely conscious in us. And um, and I've looked at this in my own life. You know, I remember as a therapist, uh, a young adult came to meet with me, and he had um, so much good fortune in his upbringing. He had, you know, a very comfortable, actually wealthy family. He had a great education. I think he was at Harvard at the time. He had just so many things. And plus, he was super handsome young man. And I remember just feeling like, why are you here? You know, you have more goodness in your life than I had at mine in that time. And I was so distressed by these feelings that I went and talked to my mentor. And he said, until you have experienced envy for a client, or acknowledge that within yourself, you're not really a good therapist. That was very helpful to me, because what did it do? It framed it as a human emotion, something that was natural to experience sometimes. Um, Another thing that never gets talked about is parental envy, that parents can be envious of their children. Now, most of the time they're not, of course, and parents work very hard to provide a good life, good conditions for their kids. And in my case, my parents worked hard to provide more for me, especially my mom. My dad, anyway, especially my mom, to work hard to make sure that I had a kind of mothering that she didn't receive. But still, I'm going to read you a quick story that I tell in my book. I can find it here. I hope. Yeah, here it is. And this is a story about uh, my having, I was in junior high. I was always a year ahead of myself because my parents didn't believe in second grade because we were all good learners and readers. And so they would just have us skip that grade. So I was always a year younger than everybody in my class. So I was 12 in eighth grade. And uh, I remember that I went to three schools between sixth and eighth grade, different school in sixth, seventh, and eighth grades, actually five schools for at the time I graduated high school, because my parents, we moved around. And so entering a new school was always a little stressful, and I got good at sort of scoping out how do you get a toehold with the kids and how do you enter that scene? And especially junior high is brutal, right? Middle school for, I guess here it's mostly called middle school. And so I figured out that the shortest route to, being popular was to become a cheerleader. And uh, and the story of my becoming a cheerleader is actually an interesting story, but it's beyond the scope of this talk. Um, at time, I'll tell it to you afterwards. But I actually no, it won't work anymore because I told you the outcome, which is that I did become a cheerleader. And I loved it. I loved it because I loved jumping around in front of everybody, and I loved having the attention, and I loved the boys looking at me, and I loved my white bucks, these white suede shoes, and they had these thin little rubber red soles. And I loved my white sweater with a cheerleading megaphone across the chest, this sort of like a varsity patch. Now, my mom resented having to buy this stuff. It was not in her budget. She disapproved of cheerleading. Jewish girls in 1958 did not become cheerleaders. She couldn't relate to any part of it. But I knew, it would ease my way at school. But it was lonesome for me. That I'm going to just read you this part. It was lonesome for both of us that she didn't celebrate my success. Mom's unhappiness planted a seed of doubt in me. Maybe competing and winning was bad. I wondered, was it wrong to triumph over other girls? My parents never came to watch a single game where I cheered. I felt sheepish when I came home in my uniform. Most days I slunk upstairs to the bedroom I shared with my little sister Julie and took it off first thing. But there was only one time when I made the mistake of leaving it on at the dinner table. Flushed with triumph, I talked excitedly about the game, about the cheers, about our swishy red tissue pom-poms, and the boys on the team. My mom sat back and kind of laughed. When I paused for breath, she remarked, smiling, "All eyes on me." Instantly, I shriveled inside, my joy curling up like a dead spider. My cheeks turned red in a wave of shame. Embarrassed, I looked down at the frozen peas, fish sticks, and ketchup on my plate. She'd been right to see that I'd been loving the attention. My attention of my dad, my mom, my brother and sister, the kids in the bleachers, and the boys. Excuse me. There's a meal saved downstairs for you, Jack.
Oh,
Sorry, he's teaching somewhere else today. My happy bubble burst as I cringed with self-consciousness, utterly deflated. The joy I felt seemed wrong now. My pride in success was poisoned by her unconscious envy. The message was clear: sitting pretty at the top of your game, enjoying the pleasure of being seen, listened to, and admired is immodest and boastful. The same loving mom who baked my favorite desserts, sewed my clothes, made my ponytail in the morning, and was devoted to her kids could also humiliate me and cut me down to size. this lesson sank in and it haunted me my whole life. Um, I'll just say that for now. But, you know, this envy was unconscious in her. She would never have deliberately undermined me. She would never have deliberately done anything to make me then worry going forward in my life about being envied and feeling horrible and things like that. And it's hard to look at the fact that, you know, for my mom, she had given me so much more than she received from her mom for various reasons that are beyond the scope of this talk. But, you know, looking at me, I could understand she couldn't help but feel a little bit bad. And some of you may know this feeling for your own kids, or maybe you experienced it from your parents who may have made sure that you had more good fortune and happiness in your life than they were able to have in theirs. And it's not, you know, this was just, it was a moment for my mom. It wasn't how she always felt. It's a moment for parents. Most parents do not, as I said, they don't, it's not a steady state of envying kids. It's a mind moment. But when we aren't conscious of these moments of, when we aren't conscious of our feelings, everything that's outside of awareness, right? It can get acted out in ways that we wouldn't probably choose. My mom would never have chosen to make me feel bad, as I said. So there's different ways to work with our difficult emotions. And mindfulness, of course, is key. And we talk about this a lot here, being mindful of all the contents of our minds and hearts as they flow through and we meditate. And trying not to identify with the various feelings or mind states, but to notice how our moods and feelings are always changing. And you can see it in the meditation that you did today, how one moment you might have felt generous and open-hearted, and another moment you might have felt shut down and distracted. When we are just doing mindfulness meditation in your daily practice, you can see how sometimes you're peaceful. Sometimes a huge, difficult emotion arises for seemingly no reason. It just pops in, or an anxious swooper dives in. You could feel, I could feel comfortable here in the sun, and then a few minutes later notice it's too hot, you know, it's burning. I don't like it. I should be happy because it's raining in California, but our minds jump around from here, right, to the past, to the future. And it can happen in a minute. It's also momentary. And this is good news because it helps us ask ourselves, why do I think that every feeling I have is true? It's the truth of that moment, but so soon it's the truth of another moment, right? And after we watch our minds for some time, we can notice, oh, you know, this is, this will pass. This will pass, whether it's anger or sadness or envy or jealousy. And I know with envy or jealousy, we're looking outside of ourselves, and it's the comparing mind. And that's a whole talk in and of itself that I want to address next week. The tendency to compare ourselves with others is always a source of suffering. Because when we're looking outside of ourselves at somebody else, somebody that might seem enviable to us, we've left home base. We've deserted our own knowing, our own intuition, our own hearts. And I know for me, when I feel that, and I've had an occasion to feel that here, because I am surrounded by so many accomplished people. It seems like all my old friends have gotten, you know, famous, and they're here teaching at Blue Spirit. When I notice a moment of that in myself, I ask myself, okay, so what is this that I'm envying? And is it something I really want in my own life? If I envy this person's, what, I don't know, their fame, the millions of followers they have, or something like that, then ask myself, do I want this in my life? Consistently, the answer has been no, I do not. I always want my life to be simpler, and that's not a simple life. Um, but you can ask yourself, what is it that I'm wanting? And do I want to bring some of that into my own life? My friend Esther Perel, who is teaching here this week, speaks 9 languages. I only speak 2 because in America, we don't teach languages so much. In Europe, they do. And also, she's a genius, besides just parentheses, because she speaks them all like this, just like we speak English. I mean, with a little accent, but that's just charming, right? She teaches all over the world, in all these different languages. Um, well, if I really care, I could learn Spanish. It's a good language to learn when you live in California or pretty much anywhere now in America. So that's something that you can do. You could also be honest about the feeling and offer yourself some compassion, because jealousy feels horrible, right? If I conjure it right now, I could feel it in my belly. It just feels nauseating, to feel really jealous of somebody. And yet, it's a valid feeling, and we can work with it in the ways that we know how to work with any difficult emotion, right? Just tuning into the body. What does it feel like in your body when you imagine feeling jealous? Imagine it right now, feeling envy or jealousy. What's it like? And that's enough. For me, I just feel a kind of visceral recoil, and I feel it, as I said, more in my gut, in my belly. Might notice where it is for you. So we notice it in the body and we tune into those sensations, because that helps drop out of the story being the context, the situation that's invoking that feeling. And it also helps realize this is a feeling in me. This is not necessarily caused by the external situation. I can take responsibility for this being my particular response. And then I can say to myself, this is what it feels like to be a human being who is jealous. This is what it feels like to be a human being who is envious. And then I don't feel condemned to the shame, the isolation of identifying with those feelings. I can just realize, okay, how many people on the planet are experiencing some jealousy or envy in this moment? I'm not alone. And that helps. It helps have some compassion, to bring some compassion for what is just, yeah. And then when we pay attention in this way, usually the emotion won't really ask anything more of us. We've given it attention. We've the image that they use in Tibetan Buddhist practice is that these emotions are like a snake that's tied itself into a knot. And if we respect the snake, the emotion, if we are honest about the emotion, um, if we recognize the innate capacity of the snake to untangle itself, which of course it has, if we have confidence in that, we don't need to do anything except be completely present in that moment. And this is the confidence that we can have in our own capacity to disentangle ourselves from identification with painful emotions, whatever it might be. And it really simplifies life. And it gives us a kind of courage or fearlessness because we know we can be honest with ourselves. We can do this. And it's not going to diminish who we are, to acknowledge quote unquote shameful feelings. Um, and that we don't have to lie to ourselves or deny or disavow or pretend. We don't have to do those things. We don't have to escape from the moment, especially the moment of shame, which is just like, cringy, cringy. We can be fully present for all of this and have the lion's roar in Buddhism means it's the proclamation of courage and trust that everything's workable. Whatever is arising in our hearts is workable and in our lives. And it may take some time, but it is workable. So this is some of what I want to share with you today. Let me see, just check my notes and yeah, I think that's enough for today. I'll continue teaching in conversation with you, which is really my favorite part because I get to know that what I'm saying is actually attuned to what you're wanting to know. And so this is a time when you get to raise your hand and ask uh, about anything that you might be wondering about in your practice, or to share some reflection from your life. It can be in response to today's teaching or in response to something that you've been going through this week or in general. And all you do is raise your hand. You can do it with the reaction button, or since we're not a huge group at all today, you can just wave your hand wildly. And Ava, who is moderating, thank you, Ava, for moderating today. She will call on you or help you unmute yourself if you need help doing that. And I look forward to, yeah, talking with you.
I think Mel has his hand up.
Yes, I did. Judy, this is part of, first, a compliment to you. The meditation today had very heavy impact on me, very much so. On my wall over my desk here, I have pictures of you and Jack and Ram Dass and you and Jonathan Faust and Tara Brock. All of you helped me find calmness during my heavy periods of stress that I might go through. I love all of you. I never really was able to share all of that in the sense that calming myself and breathing in and just sitting back and saying, sure, you can do it, let it go. And so my mantra became, let it go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mel. That's inspiring. Thank you. Thank you for telling us about that. So I guess nobody has ever struggled with any jealous or envious feelings in their life. Lucky you, huh? Okay, so Charles has a question in the chat. I'm just going to read it out loud, Charles. I would like to wish everyone happiness and health. Thank you for that. However, how does one wish such to another or others who are actively engaged in evil, harmful conduct? Your suggested ending blanket wish of happiness and continued happiness to everyone seemed to require me to be disingenuous, dishonest, which I'm not. How can I make that wish for the cartels who are flooding our country with fentanyl and committing unspeakable crimes, etc., to their unfortunate innocent victims who they assault while those impoverished souls are trying to enter the US? There's an unlimited list of others who are committing atrocities in other ways across the world. Yes, that is completely true. And so we're not wishing for example, the good fortune of the cartels who are making money hand over fist to make more money, to have more success at that. The way I look at it is, if people who are engaged in torturing others and committing, horrible crimes against humanity, or even just doing bad shit, excuse me, if they were happy, if they had some appreciation of the goodness inside of themselves that has manifested in their lives, I don't think they'd be doing that stuff. I really don't. So that's just a practical kind of answer of, it's sort of like when you do loving kindness practice, and then you might call to mind somebody that you actually hate and that you don't even want them to be happy. But if they were happier, if they felt love in their hearts, if somebody had appreciated them and cared for their happiness, would they be doing that? I don't think so. I think it's a testament to the power of anger and hate and ignorance in people's hearts who are who can pass those qualities down from generation to generation. To me, doing these practices is just one way among, I'm sure, countless, many, to begin to address and interrupt that chain of suffering in ourselves. And I do believe, Charles, that what we do with our own hearts matters. That, whether you in a Newtonian world, we're all separate and it doesn't make any sense. But in a quantum world, there's a field of connection and mysterious entanglement that I've talked about, in the past, not long ago, actually. I think it was around New Year's here, where, electrons are affected at a distance. Change in one changes another. How could that not, in some way, expand to cells that make up organisms, of which we are one? Mysterious things happen. Yesterday, I was blessed to be at a satsang, which is, a gathering, like we say, sangha, spiritual practitioners, of two people who live here, Deva Pramal and her husband Miten. They are kirtan, they are chanting musicians. They are wonderful musicians. They do a live stream each Saturday afternoon, but they invite a few people to their house who can chant with them or sing with them, because they also sing songs, while they're broadcasting the live stream to everybody. And for some reason, I didn't sleep well the night before. And so as soon as they started this soft, beautiful chanting, I fell asleep. But I was sitting right in front of them, and it was a very small group. And you know how it is, the head drops down, it's very obvious. And I felt a tap on my shoulder, like, and I woke up, and it really helped me stay awake the rest of the time. And it's beautiful music. I didn't want to sleep through it. But later, I looked around, there was nobody that close to me who would have tapped my shoulder. So I asked the person who was the closest to me, I just whispered to them, "Hey, did you reach over and tap me on the shoulder because you saw I was sleeping?" And she said, "No, I didn't." So what happened? How did that happen? That's a teeny weeny example of mysterious stuff that happens all the time to us when we're, I don't know, when we're noticing or practicing. I really don't know, because it's mysterious means I don't know. I don't know, Charles, this is a long-winded answer that may not be a bit satisfying to you, but it's what I could do in the moment. And so I'm going to call on Michelle right now.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Trudy. And thank you, Charles. I often feel the way you do, and Trudy knows that. I mean, it just breaks my heart to see some of the stuff going on. But Trudy, this has reminded me of something Carl Jung said, who knows when. But there's two kinds of envy. There's healthy envy and unhealthy envy. And so let me use myself as an example. I'm very thin. I try to gain weight and I can't. I might be eating a dessert at lunch and a woman will come up to me and she'll get very angry and say, well, how come you can eat that dessert and I can't? Well, that's unhealthy envy. But another woman might say, oh, this is terrific you're eating this. Look, I'm on a diet. And in a month from now, I'm going to join you in that dessert and I'm looking forward to it. So I think a lot about that when somebody either has achieved something that I so much want to myself, that I want to be happy for them, as well as thinking, and maybe at some point I can reach that point. The other thing I want to share quickly is years ago, someone sent me this statement by Albert Einstein, who I just love. And it said something like, great spirits often face violent opposition from mediocre minds. And I sometimes think, oh, well, sometimes I get a lot of that kind of stuff in my face. I'm not sure I'm a great spirit, but maybe they do have mediocre minds. So I think when I think about envy, I always want to think about healthy envy and unhealthy envy. And can we be conscious of that? So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Bernard.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
What do you do if someone tells you that they are envious of you? And
They tell you?
yeah, I had someone tell me who, is feeling isolated, isn't married, doesn't have children. I don't have children, but envious of people who do. And in my mind, I'm thinking, none of those conditions are solutions to life. They could be a big problem. You could be married to a problematic partner. You could have children who are extremely problematic. But I guess people who are in lack sort of feel like, well, that would be my solution. But I think I don't think there's any one condition that makes us, solves everything for us.
Well, that's for sure. That's the first noble truth right there. That the Buddha
Yeah.
taught, that there isn't any one thing that's gonna, make us happy. And I was just looking at my text from Melissa, and because I said to her, I really want to talk about, and I forgot, by the way, to talk about this. I really wanted to talk about, I said, because of the focus on the individual in our culture and the importance of individual emotions, and I think in some ways, look, I was a therapist helps a lot, therapy helps a lot, but it also can contribute to that identification with emotions. But people feel ashamed of their negative emotions, unlike some cultures where, and particularly I think East Asian and I know Tibetan, where the focus is much more on the group and the happiness of the group and being part of the group, and focus on the happiness of others is encouraged, not in terms of self-abnegation, but just as a way actually to promote one's own happiness. Just like we talk about sometimes how generosity is selfish because it makes us happy. So, you can be selfishly generous. And Melissa, I know, talked about that some, about that, individual focus versus a wider lens. But when somebody is envious of you and they tell you, to me, that's really good news because it means they're conscious of it and they're honest about it and they trust you enough to tell you. And I think one of the things that is difficult about the individual focus on our feelings so much in our culture is that we can imagine that if we really join in efforts to help others, maybe in community service of different kinds, that's going to be somehow overwhelming for us and make us somehow have less or be uncomfortable. And so we don't. And then it's more isolating for people. If somebody says they're envious of you because they feel lonesome and isolated, you might want to ask, would they like to brainstorm a little bit about what might help that feeling? I can really, sometimes I feel envious of Jack because he sleeps at least 8 hours a night, every single night, right?
That's enviable.
And yeah, it's enviable, right? And I can't say, oh, when I get off my diet, I'll sleep 8 hours a night too, because I'm just not like that. But yeah, I also think, when somebody tells you that, it's not toxic. My mom's envy was toxic for me in that moment because she wasn't aware of it. And she just said a really mean thing. And that was kind of her downfall. She was a very loving mom in lots of ways, but oh my gosh. I brought a friend, we had lived in France, and a French friend came home with me for a summer. And, she loved my parents. But about my mom, she said, langue de vipère, which means a viper's tongue. She
Ooh.
could be cruel, and she
Yeah.
wasn't aware of it. She wasn't aware of it. So I don't know, you could say a little more about why this troubled you.
Well, it's just someone I cared about, and I didn't really know how to respond other than I forget what I said, but it did trouble me because well, for one thing, it just spoke to her need, and I guess the best thing I could have done was to offer more compassion, and I have tried to brainstorm. And it's just been an ongoing problem that has never found a solution. And so I don't know. I just kind of and there isn't a simple solution. This person has to work a lot, has problems with energy, and spends a lot of it on cats, and it's just
Do they meditate?
No.
Why don't you teach them to meditate? Meditate with them.
Well, I've tried, I tried. But people have this thing about, I want to go my own way. I don't want to do what you're doing because, I didn't find it. It's not mine, but I have a way that I have found, and this is what I'm going to explore. So she's into something else.
Well,
women's empowerment. So
you wish her luck.
yeah.
You wish her luck, but she's making different choices, and you need to respect those choices, even if they're not working for her.
Yeah.
Which is hard. It's hard. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, Amanda.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is a question or a reflection, but I'm going to just start talking and see how it comes out. I'm wondering to what extent envy is getting more normalized in our society today, whereby I mean the prevalence of social media, like especially for younger generations, just turns into this medium of comparison for how you fall short relative to sometimes artificial projections of how everyone else is. And I
Yep.
guess there's a question for me, like, how does social media change the way that envy is perceived or its prevalence, like in particular in younger generations? And what do you do about bringing awareness to that, or using social media instead as a, I don't know, how do you not use it as a tool that generates envy? I don't know if that's possible.
Well, I don't know if it's possible either, but I like to believe it is because it's why I'm on social media. I would not be on Instagram if I didn't want to counteract exactly what you're talking about, and
Mhm.
use social media for teachings and for goodness, and to post things that will either help people learn, or sometimes make them laugh, or just, and I worry sometimes about posting pictures from here that it will make people
Mhm.
envious, actually. But um, since my general presence is not that, um, I trust that it's okay. But I really feel like if none of us post about this stuff on social media isn't going to change because the algorithms are just going to go to what is mostly there. So you might post a question like this on your social. Like, I've noticed that it seems like envy is just more rampant now. And I think that I mean, just what you said, it was so articulate. I don't know if you want to do that, but you're inspiring me to make a post about it. And by the way, it's lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you too. And yeah, I feel like I'm trying to figure out what my relationship to social media and envy is, because I think I played into the game of creating envy for other people. I had this amazing year traveling and somewhat boastfully was posting all these travel pictures for my own, that own boost I got when I saw that these people watched. And then a couple months ago, I took a hard look at it and I said, this is not this is not creating positive things in my life or for other people. And so now I've just kind of gone off of it almost altogether, but maybe there's a
Well,
reemergence for
you could
yeah.
do that, but you could also try. I don't know what would happen, and I don't say that you should do this at all, but you could also try posting that and say, you know
Mhm.
what? I went off of social media because I realized an unintended consequence of my sharing with you all.
Mhm.
And I want to name it. And
Mhm.
I let's try to be aware of this with each other. And my good fortune is something that came to me as a great blessing, and it was out of, you don't post all of this, but it was out of the love and goodness in your heart that you wanted to share it,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't because you wanted people to envy you, be jealous of you.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just think that it's something, always, if it's named and talked about, it
Mhm.
helps.
Yeah.
Thank you, because you've inspired me to post some. Thank
Thanks.
you. Okay, Sochi, nice to see you again too.
Hi.
Hi.
There might be an external buzz because I'm at a park, but this whole conversation has reminded me of actually one of the sitting groups that we had maybe like a year ago. And at that time, the invasion of Ukraine had just started. And one of the things that you said when talking about Putin, I don't remember the exact words, but it was something akin to we're all breathing the same air as we breathed in and out. And kind of we're all part of the same ecosystem. And in doing so, we're basically connecting our humanity through that breath. And that for me, I've held on to that as a way to kind of respond to a lot of difficulties in general. Like I grew up with being really angry, right? Angry at like racialized stuff or like just, you know, a range of inequalities, or having parents that were super envious of me. And so I've kind of used that kind of as a tool of sorts to be able to kind of, I don't know, remind myself that I am connected to a host of people even when I feel disconnected, right? And like an active like practice of breathing and breathing the same air in some way, or energetic air, has been a really just offered a good shift for me. And so I just thought I would bring that back up because it's been helpful to me.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. To be honest, I forget things like that, that I don't even remember saying it. But the fact that it was a, you know, some kind, it turned something into your
Mhm.
consciousness, it just makes me so happy. And I really appreciate your sharing it. It gives me some mudita. It
Mhm.
gladdens my heart, um, just as the practice of doing that is helping yours. So thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah. Do we have another, just a minute, Ashley? We're just like the end of our time.
That's okay. I didn't really have a lot to say anyways, and that's actually rather um interesting to me because this was probably one of the harder weeks, or like hardest weeks of my life. But I guess I just want to mostly express gratitude to you and to people like you and Jack and David Nickturn and Duncan and all of you that have, Ron, Dev, Del Borgum, that have given me a new lens and a new way of seeing things. And I could not be more thankful, just for your teachings and for everything that you do. And then just like the only kind of times lately that I felt like any kind of like envy is of maybe somebody in a situation like they could just move, and like have uh, a different set of surroundings, but that's not a possibility for me. Like at any time I see soon. So it's just kind of accepting that this is my present moment and that I have to feel it for what it is and know what it is and all of that. But then thank you again because you taught me a lot of that. And then the last thing I did want to mark on the social media comment, because I took myself off of Facebook because I couldn't deal with the toxicity of it, but I kept my Instagram, and your posts are fantastic, Trudy. They're great. And I kept it for following all of my teachers. And so I could just open it and then it's just, Meta. So I think that it can be used as a tool for good. I do think that that's possible. It's just the scope you see it in.
And it takes some discipline because it means, you know, when you're on, not just looking at everything that's scrolling through your feed, right? And just focusing on the things that you need to uplift your heart, especially now when you're having a really hard time, which I'm sorry to hear about. And you know, I love you and wish you well. And so, um, so thank you. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
total honesty and transparency, Ashley. I really appreciate that quality of fearlessness in you. Thank you. So, yeah, there's the name of the people who were chanting and singing. I'll just put it really fast in the chat. And it's PRE, not PRI. And now we need to just sit together for 1 minute, but probably even less, just taking a moment. And I don't have a bell, so we'll just clink my water glasses. Ding. So at the end of this period of study and practice together, we do what's called dedicating the merit. We offer the goodness of this practice, the benefit of whatever it is that we've learned or appreciated today. We offer freely from the heart to all beings everywhere without exception. May we and all beings grow in our capacity for appreciative gladness. May all beings learn how to work with difficult emotions like envy and jealousy. And may we open our hearts to each other in appreciation and gladness. Ding. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be here in a writer's retreat, not here at the retreat center, Blue Spirit, but you know, in a teeny weeny, just a few little houses and people, fishing village called San Juanillo, staying there. And so I'll look forward to seeing you next week and hopefully a couple weeks afterwards. And thank you so much for your practice and your presence. And I wish you a healthy week filled with just little moments of appreciative gladness. You know, seeing a dog running happily somewhere, just whatever it might be. Okay, thank you, everybody. And do we have breakout groups today?
Yes,
Eva?
we will make a quick break and then we'll come back to have breakout groups.
But again, don't get off, don't get off the Zoom. Just, do whatever you need to mute or stop your video and then come back. Okay. All right. Thank you.